finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Do we look better? Do we? Like, we changed the height of our chairs because our son looked at our videos and said we looked idiotic.
Well, I'm sure if people are listening to the podcast right now, they think we absolutely look better because they can't see us. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome back to the show. And if you're just tuning in for the first time or new this year or lately, I'm May Hindmarsh, your co-host, along with my lovely husband of 30 plus years, Timothy. Isn't that what they say on Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah.
My, I don't know, bodacious husband.
Yeah, that's right.
They
There was
never
that one.
say
There was the
anything
one
nasty
guy
on
on
Wheel
Wheel.
of Fortune.
There was the one guy on Wheel of Fortune though that won the prize. He's like, I've been stuck in a loveless marriage for the last 35 years. I have 3 completely ungrateful children that are, it was awesome.
Well,
I mean, it's obviously a joke, but it was really good.
well, we don't have ungrateful kids. We just have expensive kids and one bodacious husband, thanks to Corey and redefining strength in her macro training. So there you go. There's my plug for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Well, before we jump in further into our topic today, which is going to be, well, we've said news you can use, but mostly news you can't use.
No news you can use if you choose.
There you go. Some highlights in the news, some crazy stuff coming down the pipe, and some weird medical.
Well, and
news
we'll try
like
to
highlight.
we'll kind of shed some light on the research I did with regards to Damar Hamlin.
Well, of course, you can't give it all away here at the beginning.
No,
of the
of
show,
course not. But people are going to want to know
everybody's
that.
going to want to know it's coming.
They're going to want to know that. I mean,
and how that relates to gas stoves.
Gas stoves.
There you go. So
yes.
Stay tuned. Well, anyway, our sponsor this week and this month is Oregon Valley Farm, our personal favorite and local source for pasture-raised beef, pork, and chicken. They have really high quality, antibiotic-free, hormone-free meat sourced from in the Pacific Northwest. There's lots of beef and cattle farms around, but it's really hard to get good quality chicken, and they have it as well as pork. You can shop online, browse as far as different kinds of pre-made meat boxes that are available, but you can also pick and choose individual items as you want. And if you are local to the Willamette Valley area in the Albany, Oregon vicinity, you can pick it up from their warehouse, or if you want it delivered right to your door in a wonderful, like, frozen box with liquid nitrogen, keeping that stuff super chilled and solid as a rock, you can get it shipped as well. Most states in the western part of the U.S. Can get shipping. You got anything else to say, Tim?
Well, I just like to say, for a healthy, tasty treat that you can't beat, you just can't beat a big box of meat.
Nice. It just sounded like a SNL or a Dr. Seuss rhyme. I'm not quite sure which. Or
well, rap.
Something really nasty.
Rap music is essentially Dr. Seuss with a whole bunch of swearing.
Yeah, there you go. It's totally the truth, right?
Isn't it right? I mean, just get the right kind of beat. I won't eat grain, eggs, and ham. Put in a bad word. Sam, you
Tim,
mother, blah blah.
Well, I like.
I it's
wonder
what
if
it is.
there's a rap song for daisy-haired Maisie. That would be my thing. Anyway, check out Oregon Valley Farm. We post quite frequently on our social media, especially Instagram and Facebook stories, about their products in our freezer. And we actually had some really good carne asada from there last night that Tim converted into little fajitas. Mixed those with some peppers, onions.
I think it's pronounced fajita.
Oh, jeez. Well, is it angina or angina? Is it fajita or fajita?
Well, I would think it would be angina, because is it vagina?
No, never. never. is a
right? I mean,
vagina.
it's like the capital of Saskatchewan.
We had so many doctors teaching us.
Like
It called it angina. I was like, what the heck?
no, like, but like seriously,
What school did you go to? Angina.
right? Like, Regina is how virtually everyone in the entire world, Americans and British people, would refer to
Oh, there you go.
Regina.
We actually know someone named Regina.
Yes.
But I also know someone named Regina.
But I would always call her Regina just because I'm obnoxious.
I'm not liking this new height that we messed around with because I'm having to slump over. So sorry for the people on Rumble, the very few that are watching it. So I guess
we're technically messing with stuff.
Nobody really watches.
Hey,
well, anyway,
I watched a Rogan podcast today, and he lost his internet.
Oh, so
and you know what he did? He kept podcasting. So I'm just going to keep messing with the camera.
Eric
and keep
Metaxas always has the phone ringing and his kids running around in the background.
Well, he doesn't have kids running around, but he interviews a guy that is just hilariously great to listen to, named Zmirak, John Zmirak, and he has his beagles screaming in the background all the time. I'm like, you're on a nationally syndicated radio show. Can't you put the dogs in another room?
So it's Zmirak that makes all the noise. Well, anyway,
Zmirak, yes.
This isn't a DuckTales with Cocktails episode, but
it might drive you to.
By the way, we're
it may drive
randomly
you to drink.
Going crazy. I'm just drinking my latte here.
It might drive you to drink.
Anyway, check out Oregon Valley Farm at their website, OregonValleyFarm.com. They have specials regularly. If you sign up, you will get a gift card coupon for discount, and then the specials keep coming. So there you go.
That's right. For a healthy and tasty treat, you just can't beat a big box of meat.
Fajitas. That's fajitas.
Fajitas.
Let's not.
Fajitas. Yes.
Butcher that any longer. Ha 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 ha.
Yes.
Get it?
Oh.
You didn't even get my joke.
My. Yes. And then if I want to spice up my fajitas, I put some jalapenos in there. So what do we want to start with, May?
Well, I'm going to let you start so I can cut you off, because otherwise...
You've been cutting me off for almost 31 years.
Maybe I should start so I can get a word in edgewise, but I'll let you go. I'll go men first.
Okay, so...
how about that? Why don't you get the ball rolling with the topic everybody wants to know about, which is... What
Comatio Cordis.
What happened?
Oh,
on Monday Night Football?
Seriously. Yeah, Monday Night Football. Comatio Cordis.
But is it Comatito or Camadio?
Camadio.
I think it's Camadio.
But what it does sound like is it sounds like one of the Japanese scientists in a Godzilla movie. Oh, Comatio Cordis.
I don't even think anybody knows what you're talking about. Yes, so give the backstory.
Okay. All right. So unless you were literally sleeping under a rock, Damar Hamlin, safety for the Buffalo Bills, made a very routine tackle on Monday Night Football, whatever that date was. I don't know, like the 2nd or 3rd of
8 days ago
of
not yesterday, but the day
January.
Before. Yes, and
then he died, and he had what is actually called sudden cardiac death. There's no question that's what it was. If he was not,
well, he didn't die. He's still alive.
Technically, he had what's called sudden cardiac death because he had complete and total cardiac arrest.
His heart stopped beating.
Yes, but without immediate intervention with perfect CPR and essentially the best access to an AED you could get, because he had an entire team of trainers plus the AED there. He got immediate CPR. He got, almost immediate defibrillation, and he survived. And remarkably, he not only survived, he was discharged from the hospital, I believe, yesterday, which is staggeringly good news. Really, really amazing. Prognostically, the fact that he was intubated and not able to breathe on his own after a cardiac injury, that is usually brain death. I mean, that, it's not like a hit to the head where they, drill a hole in your head, put you in a medically induced coma, try to shrink the swelling, and then slowly wake you up. I mean, if it's just an anoxic brain injury, which would be the case in this situation where you're not pumping blood to your brain and you to the point where the most basic functions of your body and your brainstem are not functioning, in other words, breathing, that is usually a horrific outcome. This was I don't think it's a stretch, but really a borderline miraculous outcome.
Right.
He got outstanding care in Cincinnati, was able to communicate with his teammates, be part of a team meeting. There was the picture that they played before the football game this Sunday where he was making the heart signs with. I mean, it was just seriously, like, it just gives me chills talking about it. It's just such an unbelievably crazy story.
But, go back to the day or the, I guess, night of the event and the next day.
No, not the next day. They were damn near still doing CPR on the kid, and they had a diagnosis.
Well, no, but what I'm saying, they had a diagnosis. I know, but people in the Twitter and netherworld were trying to diagnose it. Of course, everybody was wanting to blame it on the vax. And that was a big topic of discussion, absolutely, because that was the first
for sure. But it was really, really interesting. It was really, really interesting because my personal experience of this, because I've been in the C19 and C21 groups, which have been, essentially the resistance to the narrative of all of the vaccinating and masking and whatnot. I was coming back from skiing. My son and I were skiing, and it's, unbelievably patchy.
And who was watching Monday Night Football? Moi.
Yeah, good for you.
The person that usually doesn't want to watch it.
So anyways, we're sitting there. We're sitting there, and my phone starts to explode as soon as we get cell coverage again because we're in the mountains. And I'm like, I look at my son, and I'm like, holy shit! A kid freaking had sudden cardiac death on a football field. Like,
are you think it was right away the vaccine that did it?
Well, you don't know what it is, but okay.
We have a little bias because we do know of arrhythmias in athletes, and when you get hit in the chest, we know.
Okay, we're gonna walk through that. So what happened? So that was my experience. So I'm like, holy shit! Someone got vax-morted in front of 13 million people watching. Is the way I look at it, because let's be honest. The reports are, and again, I don't have the very solid data because no one is really willing to look into this, but apparently sudden cardiac death by young athletes is about 29 occurrences per year worldwide. So it virtually never happens, but it does happen. There's various things that can happen actually even in normal people where when you're exercising, you just die.
Right. And we've been seeing it like a lot. Athletes, soccer players across in Europe dropping dead.
So 29 per year.
Mm-hmm.
How many in 2021? Or from the end of 2021 to the end of 2022?
290.
Huh?
Probably 290.
1,500.
Oh, 1,500.
1,500. Yeah. So at least that's the report. That's the reports that I've been seeing.
Like 300%.
So no, it's like 8. It's like 3,000%. So
yeah. You're right. I'm thinking.
So something's going on.
I'm bad at percent math.
So something is don't manage our portfolio. Thank you. So something is going on. And look, we started this thing in January of 2021. And since we started that thing of vaccinating people in January of 2021, there seems to be a bizarre uptick in weird deaths of young, healthy people. Okay. Now, can you say, therefore it's the vaccine? No. But it's kind of like you're the husband that's away on business and you come home a little bit early to surprise your wife. And she's not, in the family room, and you go upstairs and her hair is all messed up and she's naked in bed and your best friend's boots are at the end of the bed. And then you look over to the window and you notice that the window is open and the drapes are just kind of, flowing in and out. And you run to the window and you look and there's your best friend, Bill, naked, running through your backyard holding his clothes. And you turn to your wife and you're like, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? And she says, well, you know, Bill is an HVAC technician and I was having trouble with the air conditioning.
And it's really hot, so we had to take our clothes off.
And so we had to take our clothes off to fix the air conditioning. Now,
And you're telling this story based on
I'm telling the story
a
that
friend's experience, perhaps.
no, I'm telling this story that's kind of where we are with this uptick in all-cause mortality and this uptick in clearly weird cardiac things happening to young people. It's like you go, well, it's becoming we're to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. And so the vaccine skeptical people like us tend to go, well, you know, I think Bill was sleeping with your wife. Maybe it really was the vaccines. And a lot of the other
until you
pro-vaccine
find out that, you know, the HVAC did really go out, and
right.
you live in a nudist
Right.
colony.
And then the thing I forgot to tell you, which is I think where we're going next in the analogy and with the vaccines, is your best friend Bill is Asian and your wife winds up pregnant in the next 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Anyone want to take a guess at the biracial state of that baby? Just a guess. Just saying. And so, you know, it becomes this thing where you can't ignore it. And so what a lot of the cardiac manifestations, we actually have somebody that we know that had myocarditis and they were just told, well, you had COVID 2 weeks ago. It was COVID. Well, sure, could have been. COVID can cause myocarditis too. But it sure appears from most studies that the vaccine does a much better job at it than getting COVID. Otherwise, we would have seen these huge uptick in myocarditis in young people during the raging time of COVID, which we didn't. It didn't happen until after the vaccine. Is it coincidental? Again, but no one's looking into this. And the big tell here is, you know, they have, I don't even know if Damar Hamlin had arrived at the hospital in Cincinnati. And already on social media, there's all these doctors talking about Kumamoto cordis and how that's what did it. And like literally it was the most bizarre thing. It's like something happened to this kid and it's really bad, but but we know it's not the vaccine. No, you don't know anything. You can't say it's the vaccine. You can't say it's not the vaccine.
Maybe he got stung by a bee and had an anaphylactic reaction.
Maybe he was abducted by space aliens the night before. Like you can't. Everything needs to be questioned.
He could have gotten stung by a bee and had an anaphylactic reaction.
And you know,
right?
and there was
you can't even see it.
Yeah, right. And there was this girl, this young woman in Edmonton who was like having a stroke on the air, and she tweets. It was this, I think it was either this morning or yesterday morning, CBC Edmonton on her, or CTV Edmonton on her behalf, tweeted out. And at the end of it, it says, I have a complex medical history. I don't talk about my medical history, even though she was talking about her medical history months before when she was bragging about being thrice vaxxed. And I know it's not the vaccine. I mean, really, it's like that meme of those two Labrador retrievers standing in the kitchen and they got that kind of, you know, happy lab face and they're looking at their mom and it says, Mom, we regret to inform you that the Russians took a dump in the, you know, hallway. You know, yes, there's a steaming pile of dog crap in the hallway, but it was the Russians. It wasn't us. And it's kind of like, as soon as they start, you know, mentioning it's everything except this thing. Well, that's the only thing that people are going to think about. Even if the vaccine had zero to do with any of these events, as soon as you bring attention to that, everyone knows you're lying or at least suspects you're lying. And that's what's crazy. So if we go back to the injury, it's fascinating because the Kumamoto cordis is.
You're starting to sound like that Mr. Roboto song now from.
Well, I just go straight into my Japanese Godzilla scientist. So at any rate, it's fascinating because this has been studied because it does happen. It happens about 1 in a million times. It's a rate. It's almost entirely young men. The average age is 15. Why isn't it older? Because their chest wall is still more pliable in more of a child than a man. The most common way to get it is with a baseball, actually, with a projectile. It happened a few times with hockey pucks, but usually it's a baseball because, let's face it, 12-year-olds can't pitch worth of crap. And
so they should never be hitting square in the chest. It should be hitting them in the head
right,
and the ankle.
but it's super fascinating what it takes for this to happen. You have to get hit exactly in the right place at exactly the right time. And here's what's really crazy: at exactly the right velocity. So by far what causes this the most is baseballs, but it's not just baseballs. It's baseballs going on average 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
Not 50. 50's too fast. 30's too slow. 40 is just right.
Really?
Yes. And the reason is actually quite fascinating. If the ball's going too fast, it breaks your ribs and it dissipates that energy so it doesn't penetrate and hit your heart. Okay. If it's going too slow, it can't deflect your chest wall enough to actually hit your heart. So if it goes just the Goldilocks speed, then it deflects your chest wall if you're the right age and it's your wall, your chest wall is pliable enough. Plus, if you have no padding to dissipate the energy, and it deflects your chest and your heart hits your chest wall right at repolarization, right at an exact right time, and that can cause atrial fib, and your heart stops beating, and you have sudden cardiac death. So yes, it's possible.
So now I'm geeking out. My physics major brain is thinking that the exact physics of this then would depend on the weight of the baseball, which is 5 ounces.
Yeah. And it's happened with softballs
at a speed of 40 miles per
yeah.
hour.
So the kind of hit that Damar took was more of a glancing blow. He had padding. He's, 25-year-old, 24-year-old man. I mean, it really stretches your credulity to think that was it. I think if you ask me, people go, what's your opinion? I'll give you my opinion. And again, you're paying nothing for this. So my opinion is worth exactly what you're paying for it. But from the research that I've done, what this looks like to me is, did the hit have something to do with it? Maybe. But he clearly had something else. He could have had a congenital anomaly. He could have had hypertrophic left heart syndrome, which is common, would be unusual in an NFL player because they would have that screened before they'd ever be drafted and paid a bunch of money.
So he could have had underlying potential for arrhythmia or an irregular heartbeat. What a lot of people want to know, is this similar to when, we do the medical thump on people's chest when they're having an arrhythmia?
Yes.
Basically, that's what this did. Is it did it in reverse?
Even though
is you get a thump to the chest at the exact right electrical conductivity time of your heart's beating to then put it into an irregular heartbeat.
Even though the precordial thump has been removed from CPR back in the 1970s, I believe.
Well, I know some paramedics that have utilized it.
Well, they're just pissed
off.
In
an emergency situation.
They're just pissed off. Well, if you had no defibrillator, and you were like, do whatever,
Yeah.
But they do it on emergency. Remember, they bring, Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto would bring in the patient, and then what was her name?
I think they just wanted to smack someone in the chest.
I think they just wanted to have that.
But to explain to people, yes, that is what's happening with that hit to the chest. Is it's actually stunning the heart while it's pumping away at a regular rhythm, producing electrical current, and it puts it out of whack, and it's basically like fragging your electrical system.
Well, right. So can a blow to the chest cause your heart to stop? Yes. The short answer is yes. Does anybody know now in Twitter and Instagram what caused this? Of course not, because it's none of our business. It's his business.
Correct.
And,
it becomes our business because now I was reading in news updates, and I see if I can find this on my little computer here. But now they're talking about requiring padded chest protectors for children playing sports to protect them from potential similar events.
Well, then they shouldn't play sports because the risk of every other potential life-threatening injury in virtually any sport, including chess, is higher than getting this. No, like this just makes you hate regulators and the government more. Like it's crazy. There's risk in life.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why motorcycle sales are going down. because Generation X and millennials don't want to ride a motorcycle because they want to be safe. They just want to kill people in video games and get morbidly obese sitting there doing it, which is a gazillion times more dangerous than if you actually got out and rode a dirt bike every once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to start swearing here.
So yeah, I did see it, and there's a couple of news sites where they say experts do recommend chest and heart padding for NFL youth football players after the Damar Hamlin injury, and
maybe the trans athletes should just keep their breasts. How would that be?
Hey, that's really. I'm trying to think of the word. Some women who aren't even trans don't have much chest protectors naturally, so.
I'm just throwing out scientific options.
Some of us XY people don't even have a whole lot of protection.
The itty bitty chest protector committee.
So there you go. Boo on you. Anyway, yeah, so that's in the news now. It's like, oh yeah.
So they'll wear and I wore chest protectors when I rode motocross because I broke one in half from crashing. So yeah, I get chest protectors, but not for baseball. Come on. And they're not. So now the kid that can't hit anyways is going to not,
and of course,
put him in a life jacket because about 600 kids a year die in backyard pools. So just wear them, which was at the peak of the COVID pandemic, the total number of child fatalities. So just send them to school in a freaking life jacket.
There you go. Exactly.
Chest protector. Well, they won't need a protective cup because they have no balls. At least the politicians won't.
Oh, well, have we answered all the questions about?
So if somebody said, what do you think happened to the guy? He had some pre-existing condition that made him susceptible to either exercising and dropping dead or getting hit in the chest and dropping dead or something. Could it have been the vaccine? Sure. Could it have been hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? Absolutely. Could it be something else we don't know about? Yes. Could it have been just pure dumb luck and he had an R-on-T phenomenon and had a catastrophic arrhythmia? Absolutely. Could be
all in his.
It could have been any of those things. Now, yeah. I think our chances of actually getting all of the studies done to rule out all of the potential badness and us knowing about it is exactly 0.
Right.
So,
but the chatter will continue.
Yes.
Right.
So
and
we've
killed. You know it. Parents will be wanting their kids.
We've precordial thumped this one.
Chest pads while they're sliding down the slide now. That's right. They don't slide down slides anymore because they're dangerous. Remember that? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen some of those pictures from like the 50s? The monkey bars, like the
50s?
Kids.
I'm thinking, when did you grow up? I didn't grow up in the 50s.
70s.
Well, you look really good for growing up in the 50s.
Those kids.
Look at this face.
The kids.
The 70s and 80s, those metal slides. Like we all had second-degree burns from going down those things.
Not only
a
is
couple
the
people
slide,
fell off of those things.
Yeah, and then they had the big slide, which was, like, I don't know, 15 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
and
the big slide.
The surface of the slide was close to fusion, like nuclear fusion. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
14
down
trillion billion degrees.
Those things with shorts on after someone dumped a handful of sand on there. Lovely.
Delicious.
Well, kids aren't as tough as they used to be, right?
No, my personal favorite in the playground though was that the merry-go-round.
Well, that was just
do you remember that
vomitizer.
You're right. So you get on there and you'd see how long you could go, and then you'd and then of course the big kid, the 13-year-olds would show up
and try to spin everybody
to spin you off of it.
Of course. And see who could hang on the longest.
Right. And you learned a lot about it. Was like you were just part of a physics experiment.
That's
how fast can you spin that before the 6-year-old gets jettisoned off into another 6-year-old?
That's growing up. That's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Of course. Those were the good old
Have you ever seen that where somebody actually like wrapped a rope around it and attached it to a car and then like drove away and spun that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything relating to cars and debaucheries.
No, it wasn't debauchery.
Is right up your
alley. It was not debauchery.
Experiments.
It was just illegality. That's different. It's different. We were not drunk. We were not in any other than breaking the law, morally compromising positions.
Other than breaking the law.
Well, if you count driving over people's lawns as breaking the law, which I would assume most people
we need
would.
to have Vic Ferrari come back so you can do an episode and just give him all your stories so he can write a book. There's a brainstorming idea right there. You guys, he can be the
Vic can write
ghostwriter for you.
Yeah, he can write a book about all the things that I should have been arrested for but wasn't.
There you go.
And the only thing, including the illegal water skiing where I wasn't arrested. But
I think we told that story
Yes.
in one of our videos that we did when we went back to Saskatoon. So you'll have to go back on our Instagram page and see what Tim did water skiing. You have to go way back.
That's way back. That's back to the summer.
That's the summer.
It's back to the summer. That's before I was naked with Naked Way and before you were. So
don't even bring that up. Well, Tim brought this to my attention, and since we're talking about regulations, how about this? I didn't know about this until he poked my brain with this information today about the federal agency. Which federal agency? It's the Consumer Product Safety Commissioner is recommending to ban all gas stoves in the U.S. because it's a hidden hazard to children. And what hazard may that? It's not burns. It is, and it's not explosions.
It's obviously hot knifing hash.
There you go. Now it is the air pollutants on gas stoves, because if people do not have enough ventilation in their home, supposedly, then kids are going to suffer increased rates of asthma. I think it says 12% increased rate of asthma in kids that have gas stoves in the home. Now, what they're going to do is not come in and repossess your stove that's in there now, but they're going to change the recommendations and regulations going forward in building these things, whether they're completely banned like gas cars, I don't know. But the irony of this is that kids suffering asthma at a increased rate, 18% rate or whatever it is, because of gas stoves is like anybody thinking about, well, the smoking rate at home. Are we banning cigarettes? Hello.
No, there's something that's the narrative. There's a bigger meta narrative here, and I don't know what it is. I think it's an appeasement to
the money trail.
Yeah, I think it's an appeasement.
Follow the something to do.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's the appeasement to the greenies that gas stoves are bad, so they have to find a reason to make them bad, and it's like it's this asthma whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest thing was, I quoted the wrong number. It's 12% of childhood asthma cases in the nation can be attributed to the use of gas stoves.
Show me that study, you stupid dick. And absolutely none of the sudden cardiac death is attributed to the vaccine, because it can't possibly be that. But we know it's the stove. How are you going to construct a randomized controlled trial to see if the frickin' stove is causing asthma?
Oh,
it's not. It's total horseshit.
But wait, Tim, wait. You and our listeners are going to love this even more, because in pure, should I say, leftist style, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Elizabeth Warren argued Black, Latino, and low-income households are more likely to be affected by the effects because they are either more likely to live near outdoor air pollution sources or in a home with poor ventilation. So
what? So it's a racist thing now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So gas stoves. So the greatest way to cook is racist? Like seriously. We're looking to move, and one of the things I want when we move, which is very hard to find in the location that we're trying to move to, is a gas stove. Because I love gas stoves. You turn them on, they get really hot. You turn them halfway down, they get less hot.
Well,
and then you turn it off and it goes off. And it's like, wow,
you're rich and privileged and able to have better ventilation because of your skin color. So, white privilege. I'm just saying.
But the more of this crap that they spout, the more people just go, you're just an idiot.
President Joe Biden's already giving rebates of up to $840 for an electric stove or other electric appliance, and up to $500 to help cover costs of converting gas to electric, if you're interested.
Okay, so what we've just decided to do, okay, just listen to this, geniuses.
Taxpayer money at the
geniuses, okay. We've decided to make every freaking thing in the entire world electric. Electric cars, electric, some women, electric husband, electric everything's electric.
Can I shut them off when I don't want them to talk anymore?
No. You can't. It's part of the marital vows.
Apparently, you're right.
So when you look at this, the electricity has to come from somewhere, because when you plug something in to a wall, it doesn't come from magic fairy dust and unicorn farts. It comes from a place like a hydroelectric dam, a nuclear power plant, or, God forbid, the most common source of electricity in the United States, coal. Okay? So when you're driving an electric car, you're driving a coal-powered car. Yep. Not an electric car, a coal-powered car, because you have to go to the base source of energy. Okay? So if you have an electric stove, now you have a coal-fire-powered stove instead of a natural gas stove, which is way more efficient and way less polluting.
Unless you have hydroelectric power coming from water, which we were so privileged to have where I grew up, but that's not the majority.
No, but that's why electricity is cheap in the Northwest.
Yes.
Because we've dammed every freaking giant river up and put huge dams in, and they work great and they make a ton of power. But of course, there's a problem with that, because then you have to put fish ladders in. So when the salmon comes back from the ocean and gets horny and decides that it needs to drive another 200 miles back to where it was born to mate and die, you need fish ladders, because you dammed up the whole, because you got 6 dams on the Columbia River.
Okay, how do we get from asthma and gas stoves to mating salmon? Only you could do that. That was awesome.
Horny salmon.
That's where your brain goes. Okay. Next topic of the day.
They must be horny though. Have you seen them have you seen them swim up waterfalls like that? I'm like, dude.
That's
dude. You flip them over, they have a little tiny blue salmon test. I mean, it's amazing.
It's
amazing.
You flipped it over?
No.
To look at it?
No.
I'm
just for instancing.
Sure. Sure.
Is that a sockeye? No, that's a blue ball salmon.
Blue ball. It's a seasonal breed.
Yes, it's
seasonal.
Yes, just before he spawns.
Oh my!
Let's start a cannery.
Ew. All right.
Specializing in blue ball salmon.
I must change the topic now before people change the dial. This came up this week. We had a little Q&A, see if I could test Tim's brain. But the little report has come out from the CDC and the healthiest and unhealthiest states in the nation has been published, as well as countries across the world. And the data is really interesting, since the gap between women and men's life expectancy widens yet again. And the country...
Well, yeah, because we got to swim 200 miles upstream to get laid. There's a lot of risk involved in that. Meanwhile, we're playing baseball and getting our chests pummeled with 40-mile-an-hour baseballs, killing us like flies.
That's right. No, we just take the remote away from you, and then you die suddenly from a sudden cardiac death. So also, life expectancy has dropped again this 2022 year compared to the even year before, and some of that is all related to COVID. So what state do you think has the longest life expectancy?
Well, I know the answer, and it actually, remarkably, it's Hawaii.
Right. Although I think if you start looking at these states in order, I'll tell you what.
So the least life. So the shortest has got to be like Louisiana or something, right?
I'll have to double check. So yes, Hawaii has the longest life expectancy of all 50 states, which is 80.7 years in 20. This is 2020. I'm jumping ahead years. Sorry.
Well, I want 2020 data I think that's better data.
Yeah, that number's higher than the national average by 4 years, and the women are outliving men Women live on average to age 79.3, and men, the United States, have an average life expectancy of 73.5. That's quite a bit.
Wow, 6 years.
That's quite a bit.
So
And so the increased
so
deaths
that means
over
your
the last few
chances.
years has been related to unintentional injuries, chronic liver disease going up, cirrhosis, suicide, homicide after COVID deaths.
So your chances of having to get onto smokinghot70s.com
That's
is
right.
much higher than mine.
So for if it wasn't clear, so the average life expectancy is in the US 73.5 for men, 79.3 for women. In Hawaii, the average life expectancy is 82.3 years. That's for men and women combined. Second is Washington.
That's because they hike around in mountains and smoke a bale of weed a day.
Third is Minnesota.
Ice fishing, clearly.
Fourth is California, tied with number 5, Massachusetts.
That makes 0 sense.
6 is New Hampshire. 7 is Oregon. And 8th is Vermont. And I'll tell you what my thoughts on this are. So a lot of people who are, outside, obviously living in Hawaii, eating healthy, living the healthy lifestyle, getting the
Yes,
sun,
because
but they're eating more
nothing's
fish, but they're active. But wait,
what? Eating healthy? Have you ever been to a Hawaiian
spam
restaurant?
and shaved ice. Okay.
Spam, shaved ice, and macaroni salad? Yes. Nothing says health like that.
So the bias is that people who are healthy anyway are moving to Hawaii because they like outdoor
they can
lifestyle.
afford it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the same if you look at states like California, Massachusetts, and that are on here. I would argue that when you look at the state as a whole, you probably have a lot of people with a lot of wealth in California and Massachusetts that are able to buy. We got Boston. You've got all of California. So they're able to buy health care, to get procedures, longevity. They're into the longevity medicine and regenerative health topics. And that's my bias, is that's why California, Massachusetts are so high on the list. Now, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, those are more outdoorsy states. It's more rural. People are doing more hiking, outdoors activities. Same with Minnesota.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
No, not really. I don't.
Why?
Because I think
I
think it comes down to basically one thing.
What?
Being poor kills you. And if you have a state with way more poor people, you have people that live way less long.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of poor people in California, and there's a lot of poor people.
Yeah, but on average, they have a homeless problem, but they have 30 million people that live in California, and the LA County has 50,000-60,000 homeless people. So it's a relative drop in the bucket when you look at average housing costs, et cetera, et cetera. I would disagree. I think when you get it, and you have to get seriously poor, right? You need the West Virginia dried up coal mine,
only in a different way.
Yeah, kind of. We are. I mean, I think activity makes a difference, but I think that the single confounder is wealth. Rich people do healthier things, and they don't die. They have access. Yeah.
That's
you
what I
said
just
that,
said.
but to narrow it down by state, because this is an outdoorsy state. No, I just think it has. I mean, Oregon is 7, and we only have 5 million people, and we have, not very high population density, and it's expensive to live here. There's your answer.
Okay.
Whether or not you go fishing or not, I don't know that it matters. Unless you're fishing for a blue ball salmon, in which case it matters greatly.
I think it matters. Okay, so let's see what the most unhealthiest states are. By life expectancy.
What's 50?
Mississippi is the bottom of the barrel.
Yep. Well, exactly. Mississippi, West Virginia, and Louisiana. Surprise!
So there. Mm-hmm. Alabama, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee. Those are all. And Mississippi's average life expectancy.
I think it's pronounced Arkansas.
Really? Arkansas? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Well, how come it's Kansas with an AR in front of it?
71.9 is the average life expectancy in Mississippi. So I'm not going to move there and retire. I'd like to live a little longer.
What was that? I'm sorry.
71.9 years.
Wow, good Lord. That's 14 years from now.
Yeah. Okay, but here we go. We just talked about it. What's the highest expenditure in healthcare then? So that would be California at $174 billion.
Well, is
in
this absolute
2020.
numbers or per capita? Because
Uh,
it's the most populous state.
No, that's the total cost.
Yeah, so that doesn't really mean
New
anything.
York, 131 billion, and Texas at 76
Yeah,
billion.
so it's
with
just the
us-
size of the state.
Correct.
So that's kind of
But it would be interesting to see which state has the least expenses. And
well, it's gonna be the smallest state. It's gonna be like Rhode Island.
okay, let's see if you're right. No, Wyoming.
Well, okay. Actually, I think Wyoming might have a smaller population than
Exactly.
but South Dakota's down there. That's surprising
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because
So-
they're all bikers going to Sturgis. That's why it is the healthiest thing that you can do. Because if you want to see people, primarily men, but some women, in the peak of physical fitness, you need to go to Bike Week at Sturgis.
Yeah, I'm thinking
And you need to-
Hawaiian Ironman triathlon is the place to go.
And you need to recognize that.
So I call
sarcasm.
BS on you.
Sarcasm is my love language.
I'm calling BS. Yes, exactly on you. Oh my. Hospital wait times. That's also some fascinating data. So if you want to get fast hospital service, where should you go to? Probably the smallest.
North Dakota.
Exactly. North and South Dakota, smallest population. And then the longest wait time is Maryland, Delaware, and Massachusetts.
Well, Maryland has two problems. One is Baltimore. The other one is Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So,
Fascinating. Anyway,
yes.
thought that was some fun statistics for you all to hear.
Those were really fun statistics.
Well,
I love
the other thing in the news that drove me nuts is I heard about the triple demic, and I'm like, what the heck? Are they inventing words? Have you heard of this? And of course,
No, they just need to stop it now.
Yale Medicine doctors offer steps to protect children against colds, flu, RSV, COVID-19, and other diseases that are circulating, and how to keep your child safe from getting a triple demic. So actually, they're concerned about a child getting all three: flu, influenza,
okay,
RSV, and COVID at the same time.
Yeah, that is the bullshittiest bullshit on an island made entirely of bullshit. That would still smell. And this is why. There is a phenomenon, which we have not talked about extensively, but I would like to get into it at some point, which is, it's called viral displacement. So you tend to not get two viruses at the same time. It's possible, but very unlikely. So why was there no flu? I mean, what was there? 4 actual positive flu cases in 2020 or something during the heart of COVID? Why? Because they fudged the test? Because there was a conspiracy? Probably not, actually. All of that stuff, I think, is most likely nonsense. Even though I don't think the COVID test, there's issues with it, and it probably caused some flus to be COVID, whatever, but I don't think that's the issue. The issue is you had a huge pressure of COVID. Tons of people had it. Tons of people had it and didn't know they had it. And so what it does is it ramps up your immune system, and it protects you like a little viral shield from getting other stuff. So no, your freaking kid is not going to get COVID, flu, and RSV at the same time. It's not going to happen. Plus, why is there so many sick kids now? It's because they put everyone's immune system on, permanent vacation for 2 years, which was completely insane. Not only were kids not socialized properly in school, their immune systems weren't socialized. So then they all come back together, and it's the triple demic. Yeah, because you dumbasses started it.
Well, here, I really like poking the bear, which is you.
Apparently.
So get a load of this. This is what's published. It says, along to, paying attention on that, there are many other viruses that parents should look out for. Okay. This is exactly what it says. There are many other viruses
like monkeypox
that parents should look out for, including RSV, adenoviruses, which are the cold and flu-like ones, human parainfluenza virus, human this one I've never even heard of, paracovirus, enterovirus, which is the one that's causing flaccid myelitis like polio, and m-pox. Like, way to scare parents.
Okay, yeah, they can't call it monkeypox anymore because somehow that's also frickin' racist because there's a monkey cooking on a gas stove in some racially undiverse place or whatever. So now it's m-pox. Really? Okay, if your kid gets m-pox, all right, call the doctor and then call the police.
Well, here's what they say about. I had to just poke the stick your way because I wanted to see what you'd say.
And
this
it's
is what they write.
Parainfluenza is a freaking cold.
This is what they say about mpox, a rare disease similar to smallpox but less severe that has been recently spreading mostly in men who have sex with men. Pediatricians are on alert because its spread during this outbreak is so unusual. It causes symptoms such as chills, fever, and sometimes a painful rash. Right now, the probability that your child's rash is going to be mpox in the absence of a known exposure is pretty low.
No, it's zero. It's zero in the absence of a known exposure.
And then it says,
and if you have a
should always notify their pediatrician about exposure to mpox or any other unusual disease. So, well, there may be some.
When was this written? When was this published? Because this is August 11th, so it's relatively
no.
Updated December 6th.
December 6th,
and
2022.
They updated this December 6th, 2022.
Yes.
So like a month ago.
Yes.
And they still put freaking monkeypox in there?
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's like Prince. It's not monkeypox anymore. It's mpox, formerly known as monkeypox. The virus formerly known as monkeypox that just goes by a symbol.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, you're welcome. I know you like it when he gets worked up. Let's check his blood pressure now while we break to the next topic.
Seriously, like this is just.
I did that for your entertainment purposes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we're getting to the end of the show. Oh, my hair is going.
Well, I never even talked about the other NFL players that were affected by sudden cardiac things.
No, we'll save that for our next episode.
Like, it wasn't just one guy, kids.
All right. Rounding out the show with the little last news update that's going around. Get this. Just when you thought your testicles weren't swollen enough, Tim, we're seeing a resurgence again of mumps. Adults may be losing immunity to mumps. Are boosters needed? This is just out today. So, despite the routine use of mumps vaccine, the United States is seeing, they say, outbreaks of mumps. The study looked at a surge here and there of mumps outbreaks, and while rare, their concern in this published article that came out January 9th, I think they saw an increase. I was surprised. It was something like 32%. Estimating of
the percentages don't mean jack. You need the absolute numbers.
I know. Of individuals that'll lose vaccine derived immunity by age 18. So I'll have to look at the exact.
Okay, if that was the case, how come there wasn't MMR is an old vaccine? So then how come there hasn't been a gajillion cases of mumps in the last 20 years? Like, we've done this for 30 years. Do you know how many cases of mumps I've seen? Zero.
So there's maybe
one.
That throughout the world, there's been a resurgence of mumps cases, including, aside from the US, Canada, England, South Korea, Denmark over the last 2 decades. And it's in patches. But they're trying to figure out exactly what's happening. If it's, like you said, I didn't read through all the study on this one, this retrospective study. But
what's 32% increase? Is that like 4 kids instead of 3? Like, what's the thing?
Right. You want the exact number.
Because when they don't, like, and this happens on all sides. Right. Like, it's a crappy way of arguing. You have to, percentages do matter, but what matters more is absolute numbers.
Correct.
Okay. Because otherwise you get into it's crib death. It's back to sleep. Right. You put your kid on his back to go to sleep, and they have a 1 in 500,000 chance of a SIDS death. If you put them on their stomach to sleep, it's a 1 in 250,000 or something like that. So it's a dramatic reduction as a percentage. As relative risk, it's 100% reduction.
Right.
But in absolute risk, it's still only a 1 in 250,000 chance.
Correct.
And
So-
like our son would never sleep on his back. And and May was freaking out. She's like, what do we do? And I said, you put him on his stomach. You put him on like any way he's going to sleep, because otherwise he's going to scream all night. And then he has a 1 in 60,000 chance of homicide versus a 1 in 250,000 chance of SIDS.
Totally true. Absolutely. And
So-
he's still alive to this day.
Yeah, very much so. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is just new out, so we'll have to take a closer look at that, at the exact numbers. I think they were estimated based on large populations throughout the world, and I can't really get a good look at it from.
But this is fascinating to me, because this is all narrative formation.
Right, correct.
Because they know what's coming down the pike. They know that people don't. They know that there's a significant number now, probably way, way over 50%, that for sure are not going to take. I mean, the uptake of the bivalent booster is, I don't know, like 15, 20% maximum. It's very, very low. And in children, it's damn near zero. So what's happened?
So there's a narrative, and I was just going to get to that. Guess where this project was initiated and funded by?
The Pfizer Institute for Pfizer Vaccines and Vaccines by Pfizer.
Yeah, well, close. It's the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and the NIH.
Oh, you mean where Fauci worked up until like 10 days ago, and the NIH, where his wife actually still works? Wow. Isn't that great? Yes, because they know they're trying to get ahead of this, because they're scared shitless no one's going to take a regular childhood vaccine.
Right.
And and
that's where I was going. So you're going to see more of this come out over the next little while, because everybody's attitudes now are starting to.
Well, did your attitude change to regular childhood vaccines since the COVID debacle?
My attitude changed towards them after I was a kid, when I had all those childhood illnesses, and I was like, why would you give me a vaccine when I already had this?
They
still gave me the shot afterwards.
Yeah, I fully supported, in my pediatrics practice, vaccinating kids. I never thought twice about it, really. I started scratching my head on some stuff, though. I'm like,
the hepatitis one, we're like,
the hepatitis one is like, why would you vaccinate unless the child's parent, mother has hepatitis? Giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn baby seems very bizarre, because the risk of getting it is about zero. I understand the rationale. Do you know why they do it? The reason they do it is because if you get infantile hepatitis B, your chance of getting chronic active hepatitis B is virtually 100%.
Correct.
So that was the thinking.
But
the risk of acquiring that virus in infancy, unless you have a hepatitis positive mother, is about 0%. Yeah. So you're just accruing risk with no benefit. The one that really got me initially, because it started right about the beginning of our practice, was chickenpox. I'm like, why are you vaccinating for chickenpox? It didn't kill anybody.
Right. Well,
I mean, it kills virtually no one. And, it's shitty to get chickenpox, but it's a self-limited illness. You sit in an oat bath and you scratch for a few days.
Well, now we get a lot of questions about getting the shingles vaccine. And we're not going to give medical advice on this show, but I'm sure it's a very variable answer to that one. That's for sure. And it's not just a black and white.
Well, I think you got to think. I think you got to think carefully about something when there's treatment and when the vaccine doesn't work that well, anyways. I mean, the new shingles vaccine works way better than the old one.
Yes.
So I kind of just explain the pros and cons to people, and then let them decide.
Exactly.
Pneumovax. I mean, a lot of this stuff, when you look at it, like when you look at the Cochrane review on the flu shot, like if you actually go in, like
way worse. I used to.
Cochrane reviews are the most rigorous science in medicine, and even there, some of them are kind of a little suspect with regards to the pharmaceutical industry, but most of them are pretty good. And there really is not a recommendation from Cochrane reviews for flu shots. They said we can't based on data recommend universal flu vaccination. That's what it says. Yeah. And that was relatively recent. I think it was 2008 and 2010 they looked at this. And so so am I saying don't get a flu shot? No, I'm saying think about it. I'm saying it's your choice. But this idea that somehow you're not going to get flu, when it's widely understood in conventional medicine that the very best a flu shot ever does is 60%. And that's if they nail the virus that's coming, from Asia.
Yeah,
so it's like,
we've had some fun over the years when we've been working in urgent care, just taking our own little surveys of people that come in when they're sick with influenza, have a positive test, and I always just ask, "Did you get a flu shot?" It's just for my own info. It's not affecting their care or going in their chart necessarily, but
Yeah, but
it was amazing how many years we would see people that were pretty good, well protected, but other years where you're just like, well, this was a bust this year because everybody we're seeing, like 90% of them had a flu vaccine and they're all still sick.
But there's a very significant difference with the flu shot. Is we've been doing flu shots for 50 or 60 years, and we understand the safety data.
Right. No. I was just saying how entirely it can vary depending on the strain.
Entirely different thing.
Yeah. We're talking about different things.
I mean, they pulled the swine flu vaccine in 1976 for a 1 in 100,000 person chance of getting Guillain-Barré syndrome. I just watched an outstanding video, 15 minutes, by Paul Campbell, who has been pro-vax the whole time. Very, very good teacher. He's a PhD nurse educator from England. And he went through a study of these guys that actually went back and looked at the original Pfizer and Moderna studies on the safety profiles that got emergency use authorization. And there was a 1 in 800 severe reaction to the COVID vaccines. Slightly higher in Moderna because the dose of mRNA is higher. And they're being promoted as safe and effective. But 1 in 100,000 for the swine flu vaccine in 1976 was pulled. So let's just leave it there.
I love it. Let's just leave it there because segueing now.
Back
to bringing it back to reality.
And back to a big frozen box of meat.
There you go.
Delivered to your door.
I just wanted to hear you rap one more time. I'm sure they're going to love it.
Healthy, tasty treat. You just can't beat a big box of meat.
Well, you have to throw Oregon Valley Farms name in there. I'm sure they would appreciate, the Parkers would appreciate you rapping there. Think about it.
Or they wouldn't.
More likely.
It's a binary response. They would appreciate it or they wouldn't.
So here you go. Oregon Valley Farm is the name of it. Oregon Valley Farm, no S.com, where you can check out their website to see what specials they have going on for the best pasture-raised beef, pork, and chicken. And like I said, our freezer is always full of stuff. The steaks are incredible. We had steak when Jake was home, our son was home, and he was even like noticing how off the chart this stuff is. And so you can get grass finished or grain finished, either way. But
no, I want
the marbling is amazing.
I want my cow grass finished. I want him stoned out of his mind.
They don't do that kind of grass, Tim. Don't.
Dude,
try to make something else.
I'm so grass finished. I can't believe it. I've never been this grass finished in my life.
So thanks to them for sponsoring this episode. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say to them for all the antics.
No, I think people will get the message that I care deeply about the environment and not powering the world by coal and continuing to have gas stoves and maybe asking some questions when somebody is having a stroke at 25 live on air in Edmonton.
There you go.
All right. Yeah. But we know what it isn't. We know what didn't cause it. That's right.
But that passage that I read today by my favorite James DeNicolantonio was totally spot on. It was like people spend all kinds of money, or they worry and stress about having money, stuff, cool car, a great house, spending on material items, but they put the crappiest food in their body. Makes no sense to me. So if you're not living in Hawaii, you better be buying Oregon Valley Farm.
Well, no, I'm done. Like you give me those statistics on longevity.
Are we moving to Hawaii?
No, I'm gonna just eat macaroni salad and Spam from now on because clearly that's the answer.
Now they got a lot of great cattle farms over in Hawaii.
They do, and they have lots of fish, which is very good for you.
And pineapple.
The ahi, and then that fish. That's the
And
what is it? The Hawaiian national like mascot fish. The
yeah, I think there's a 3-letter version. That's the short form for that.
yeah, but the actual letter version is every single letter in the Hawaiian alphabet.
It's like
and they're all vowels.
It's like pow or something.
Pow,
It's the Hawaiian fish. What's the name of that thing? Other than mahi mahi. I don't know. If I find out, I'll let everybody know.
Yeah, that's and I think the fish is like 4 inches long and the name is like 10 inches long.
Exactly. Oh, it's a AU or something. Ow. There you go. Anyway. All right, everybody.
That's what you say when you step on the coral.
That's not what I say
Ow.
when I step on the
Ow.
coral. I think it starts with an F.
Foul.
Kind
this
of,
is well, we're not even drinking alcohol and it's deteriorating rapidly.
Maybe
maybe that's
drink
the problem.
more often.
Maybe that is the problem.
Then this is the sobering version of our show. Anyway, hope you all had a great time. Stay tuned for our crazy antics online on Instagram and Facebook, and please share the show and episodes with your favorite enemies so that we can get the word out. If you have any questions, email us at doc@bsfreemd.com.
Correct.
Because we have a lot of email addresses, I tend to mix them up. And we'll be bringing you some updated medical news in the next couple of episodes as I'm about to embark on a number 14th adventure.
Yes, your 14th surgery.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I counted today.
What's the percentage of them that were orthopedic?
Like half. Over half. I know I had to count today to fill in my surgical history, and it was quite embarrassing because I didn't even count my LASIK. That's how many surgeries I've had.
Does that count? Just eye drops.
No, you get sedated for that a little bit. No, I did not count my LASIK eye surgery, but yes, I'm going on number 14 coming in up a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that.
All right. We shall see you next week with another amazing interview. And actually, I think we have a very special guest next week. So that will be fun.
All right. See you next time.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.